Hello there, twin. I had a few technical difficulties, so I'm using my iPhone to stream this live, and I'm going to try and do the reading as well as a few other things. Okay, let's see how I can do this as I'm looking for. All right, so as promised, I am doing a live broadcast on God consciousness and what it is and what it means to be God conscious in our daily life, and some of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about were what had been showing up in the readings all week, which was the difference between the seven deadly sins and the cardinal virtues, and how we don't realize how often our everyday experiences wind us up in the seven deadly sins. So, our behaviors, our attitudes, our thoughts, our uh, belief systems, all these things are part of kind of a conditioned plan, a reliance on people, a reliance on the government, a reliance on our jobs, a reliance on self, and how it all becomes wanting after a while. So in this reading, I am, because we're live, I'm praying over and shuffling the deck. I had to center myself. It was a very long and crazy day. I was up pretty late last night. A client wound up in the emergency room and had reached out for help, and so I got home about 2:30, and then back at it today. So yeah, so this is the live streaming on God Conscious. Uh, Energy coaching and healing. I'm having a hard time with the names that were chosen for these sites, so please forgive me as I get familiar. It's almost like I'm not living my own life right now, and that I am just going with what's being put in front of me. So I will just kind of keep shuffling until they tell me to stop, and then I'll move into some more of the subject matter. Um, if you don't get to watch this video, I will keep it up for 24 hours and then I'm taking it down. I apologize for the background, not so pleasant, but there's a lot going on inside the house that I would much prefer not to have any interruptions of any kind. So this is what you witness. Alrighty. So this morning they had me do a 3-card reading. And in the 3-card reading, it was the Pentacles. And in the Pentacles, which signifies our everyday world, showed abundance and the potentiality for abundance. This talk is about how to balance the spiritual life with the physical plane and the daily activities of paying the bills and getting the groceries and cleaning the house and working a 9 to 5 and all those wonderful things that we get. We got the hanging man energetically. So yeah, we're looming between two worlds, and that's why this message is being presented to us to be able to be still in the midst of chaos, to try and find balance between the spiritual life and the uh, physical plane. And the overall world does not make that easy. If you watch a lot of TV, if you listen to the news, if you read the newspaper, if you're on social media, these are all the distractions that pull our attention from God and to um, negative ideas and defeating belief systems and the reliance. We don't realize how much reliance we put on the government or on our own self-will, really. Like, we don't realize how much we ask or we expect that the government's going to protect us, or we expect that the government's going to take care of us, or expect that, because they set themselves up to be a master in our domain by way of money, which would be Social Security, by way of taxes, by way of controlling paradigms. And a lot of us are stuck in the rut of a financial crisis of, debt, really, and how that affects our everyday life, and what the spiritual realm says about engaging in such behaviors as debt. And they do give us tools and techniques to get out of debt. So some of those tools and techniques are to really take a look at what we have, what we need, and what we don't need. We are a gluttonous society overall, and we tend to spend money on the next best TV, the next wardrobe, the next high-end tech iPhone, and so they keep reeling us in with how this is going to make our life better. And a lot of us fall for the trick, myself especially and included. And I think that being on this journey taught me that those things are not as important as being true to myself and not buying into the lies of society and the lies of what's happening in the world. And so, yeah. So I'm going to continue with the reading. I'll be shuffling a deck in front of you. We got this card this morning, and that's getting through the wilderness and getting to the other side of any of the darkness and any of the dark energies that we are facing. And then the Three of Wands was in your masculine's energy, where he's contemplating where he's going to go next. And that's based on the energies of engaging in behaviors that caused a bit of a rift in his mind between him and maybe the divine partner, him and the rest of society in his little world. And then how being in the hangman position causes us to be in this contemplative state, to be looking at the future but not quite sure how to get to that kind of pie in the sky. This one is a ship, really, in the sky. And how do we get from where we're at now with the tools that we have, which haven't been so used yet, to where we really believe we want to be. And I think that if you're watching this video, this is a great step in the direction of clarity and really finding your way through the darkness. We have the Fool, which has shown up quite a bit this month already, which is, it's a fool's journey. And that's, so we have an ending in the Ten of Coins, meaning the ending of apprenticeship, and an ending of maybe an ending of the way the relationship was going for a while. Maybe it was an ending of negative patterns. but it's showing that there's light at the end of that tunnel, and that we begin anew in the unexpected. So, this morning I think I talked about I'm not here to um, predict the future because only God can do that. What I mean by that is when I pray over these decks and I shuffle these cards, whether I do it for the collective or I do it for an individual, the angels share with us energetically what's going on. So they don't suffer from the same time space continuum that we do. So you may watch this video in a week from now and it hits an aha moment within you. And you may be just starting that fool's journey when you get a chance to look at this. And the fool's journey, which is basically starting out like an empty vessel. See, in this card, I don't know how well you can see it, so I'm going to do my best to show you. There's no face. There's no face. There's no head even. There's no neck. It's just a mask. And so you get to start from scratch. You can start anew on the fool's journey. And on the fool's journey, as you learn to navigate through with these new tools, you start to see what works for you and what doesn't. I when I was contemplating on my way back from my work day, uh, how many people on YouTube that I followed over the last 5 years who were um, also experiencing some of the difficulties I was experiencing, and who stepped out in faith and formed a channel and accrued some followers, and I was one of those followers who, kind of hung on every hopeful word, which was a godsend, to be honest, because they had a little bit more experience, and even if they didn't, they had a little bit more self-confidence to be able to put this channel together and really commit themselves to being a vessel for God and for the collective. And though I had that nag to do this many years ago, only starting it now made me realize that it was just right on time, and that the people that are following are the people that are meant to follow, and that the people that are watching these videos at any given time are the ones that are meant to watch these videos at any given time. So I'm just very grateful for many of you who have encouraged me on this path, and who were present for some of the live videos that I've done over the last month. And I know in the summer months it's a little bit more difficult, but we're going to just keep trying here and keep plugging along. And especially since this channel is new, God Conscious um, coaching, energy healing, energy coaching and healing, it's just all brand new. So um, it's going to take time to build, just like God Conscious Twin Flames did. So the next card that we got was the Eight of Swords. And that's you right now. That's what you feel like right now. You kind of feel like you're in this bubble and that you can't get out. You can't find your way clear to this opening, which is showing up in your work position. So it's there. You might be blinded by some fear. You might be blinded by what your natural eyes see based on behaviors of people around you, based on your circumstances. This is the perfect opportunity to have that mustard seed of faith, to be able to move forward, on the journey. The mustard seed, what you see, don't go by what your eyes see, your physical eyes, go by what your spiritual eyes see. And it's moment by moment by moment by moment. And affirmations and encouraging videos and encouraging scripture. So I was charged with bringing the Bible to life to this community, and it wasn't apparent to me really in the beginning. It was God consciousness, but as the weeks progressed on this video, the Bible became much more a part of the readings. And it became a part of the readings because me, as being raised Catholic, um, and probably why I threw out my cards before I left New York was that these cards are considered taboo by most religions, and it's based on fear, and it's based on ignorance, and it's based on, them wanting to keep us ignorant. Them meaning the forefathers in the church. They want us to rely on them. And I think I remember having to go through confession. And it was for one of my daughter's sacraments. I had put my daughter through the Catholic religion, and I remember having a priest that I had never met before receive my confession, and he hit me with like 20 Hail Marys and 30 Our Fathers, and he had asked questions about whether or not I had been engaged in tarot, and at the time I was not. I'm going back about 12, 13 years ago. I was just beginning to get acquainted with it. And it was this fear deep inside me that I was doing something bad or wrong or dirty. And the woman that used to read for me and the one who encouraged me to do this, I don't think I ever mentioned that to her because she also was a practicing Catholic. I don't think I ever mentioned it. I just kind of went with the energy of the advice that I was receiving at the time that she was giving it to me, and it was all sage advice, but I was too immature to understand it. And so as it were, it came to me in my thoughts a lot recently that people are afraid of the tarot, and they're afraid of the tarot because of what they have been conditioned to believe. So we're talking a lot this week about conditioning, and we're talking a lot this week about um, the seven deadly sins and the fruits of the spirit, and that's what happens. Is this bondage of, but I was taught this and I believed this, and this was my world for so long, and um, how can I let it go? And what's going to happen to me if I let this go? Well, this was how I based my life. This is how I based my persona, which is why the fool has just a mask and no face, because it's getting to rebuild all over again. And um, yes, it is scary, the unknown. Walking away from things that we had been taught and things that we had believed in, and walking away and moving into something new has been really, really scary. So, so we're going to be learning a whole lot of new things, particularly about emotions. This came up as well. This is the outcome card. I think the collective in general is going to be learning about the emotions and about how the emotions have affected your decisions, your everyday life, your relationships, the people around you. This is quite um, encouraging that we get to begin anew. So overall, they're saying anything that you thought you knew, surrender it, and every day start anew and be open to some new data being downloaded into your mind. Be aware of things that may be coming to you in threes. Now, I mentioned, and I put in the links below, the Course in Miracles as being a very powerful learning device for me on my journey. And the reason that it was so powerful is because it caused me to question everything that I knew and everything that I thought I knew. And so I based my life on the belief system that being successful, monetarily successful, career-wise successful, was the most important thing, and that achieving that success and then collecting things as a result of moving up that corporate ladder, a new car, a new home, a new clothing, expensive pocketbooks and jewelry, and acquiring and accruing all this stuff was what this was all about. That's what I was taught, to be better than the Joneses, or to have more, or to make more money and go on these fancy vacations. But every time I got one of those, it kind of chipped away at my soul. There was like inside of me, there was still this big gaping hole that couldn't be filled by those things. No matter how many things that I had acquired, I still felt empty, and I still felt ashamed, and and I was insatiable in my appetite for those things. So I wanted more, I wanted more, I wanted more. And the more I got, the more I had, the less I felt happy. I didn't feel happiness. I didn't feel peace. I felt stress. I also had at that time um, strange illnesses. Vertigo appeared in my life, which I have not had since I haven't had vertigo in 18 years, or suffered with the stresses of it. Because once I started to really pursue this journey, any of the stress related illnesses disappeared from my awareness and from my everyday life. And so, as I started to question what it was that I was doing, um, and quite honestly, it wasn't, I had these inklings that things weren't right, and that I was working a lot of hours and not spending as much time with my daughter, who was young at the time, and I was really putting her off to her dad, who was alive at the time, while I did all this working. And or I took her with me because at the time I was a successful real estate broker, and I had friends, with her all the time because she was only a child. But I remember this nagging feeling of this isn't right. This isn't right. There's something wrong here, and I couldn't buy her love. Uh, that didn't feel proper to me, but I was doing it because I didn't have another way at the time. So, fast forward um, to the crash, the global crisis, global crisis, which had been read to me years prior, to be frugal and to be prudent and to put money away, and to prudence is also one of the virtues that offsets gluttony. Um, I didn't understand it. Earlier in this video, I just said, I was too immature to understand what that meant. But I was being warned that there was going to be something that would happen that was going to be on a very large scale. And I couldn't think like that at the time. I thought, well, I can get through anything, and I'm this hard worker, and all these things, and I. There was no God in anywhere in my statements. I went to church every Sunday, though. I did. I went to church every Sunday, and I raised my daughter to be Catholic, and I, practiced Catholicism, and I knew all the prayers verbatim. I didn't have to open the book to read them. So I prided myself in that, and I didn't miss a Sunday. And, though I was not extremely, I was a bit of a hypocrite because I was taught I was in a relationship, we weren't married, and there was all these things that I was engaging in, that I had one foot in this world and one foot in that world, and I always felt like a fraud. And come to find out, that was what I was indoctrinated into, and have since been indoctrinated out of some of it. So what do I mean by that? I I am not one right now who believes that I'm going to get into a relationship with somebody and um, not seek marriage at this point. Um, I don't know. I think that biblically, where I am in my phase of development, I think it's very important um, to maintain chastity before marriage, and that's pretty wild after all this time of not behaving in that way. But when I did have my recent encounter with my twin, there was no hanky-panky of any kind. It was really just a very gentle time of getting to know each other again, and I am just so grateful that I followed my gut on that, and not sought to people please, or not sought out of fear to keep him by engaging in things that, we're adults and we have desires, but I have learned to keep those desires at bay because they don't serve my best interest. So I feel really good about those choices. And I think that I have to credit this journey to that, the twin flame journey, uh, to really having a great deal of respect for myself and my body and my beingness. And, you know, I can't say that I am guarded, but I do seek God and the angels and protection. And what happens is, in my beingness, I know that there are things that I cannot do. If I start to engage, I get this really discomfort, this really big discomfort within me, and then I stop. So the overall message that we have been guided to this week is God consciousness does not have to be religious minded. It's not religion per se as much as it is being conscious of the divine and how he is guiding us on this journey. And it could be the divine in any in any religion. It could be Kuan Yin. It could be Buddha. It could be um, uh, Ganesh. It could be, you know, uh, Mother Earth, Gaia, for that matter. And when we're following like those kinds of ideas and paradigms, um, they all talk about truth, and we talk about love, and they talk about unconditional. And so, being in that unconditional love and um, conditioning, reconditioning, um, things could go wrong in your world, and you won't lose your equilibrium and your balance. So I have some stories that I'm not going to share today, but as we get to know each other on this channel, I will start to share the testimonies of having faith and living minute by minute and seeking God's face in everything that I was doing and trusting that he had in his divine protection in his hands, in the palm of his hands, my situations. And that as long as I acted in faith and maintained my attitude, thoughts, and behaviors, that I would feel better about me and about how I engaged with people in my life. Some of those people are family members. Some of those people could be my daughter, my twin flame, the people that I work with, and learning what I am willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. And at this stage, the journey has been quite interesting. I have been blessed to have my needs met. I am seeking to build businesses here in Florida and community. And so I have a, a foundation of really amazing people around me. You are considered some of them, so I thank you for that. And then you know, in my metaphysical store, I've started to develop relationships there and do readings for them out of the store, and really embrace oneness with so many different groups. So in this reading, you know, we have the light at the end of the tunnel, that it is okay to fantasize about the future, but don't get so caught up in it. There are things that really had to go out into the go away, and that there are things coming to you. Focus on the things that are coming to you rather than the things that you had to let go of. We have to be empty vessels. I think I shared that a lot since Thursday or Friday of last week. We're empty vessels, and in being an empty vessel, there are things that no longer serve our greater good that have to be let go of. Sometimes it's a job. Sometimes it's a relationship. Maybe you're in a karmic relationship and you're really not comfortable there anymore, and maybe you outgrew it. Outgrowing a church, outgrowing a 12-step community. You might have outgrown some people in your life, and you're in this scary place, and you're afraid maybe of the unexpected, to start new, and you know, to rebuild. Um, but know that the divine has your back in this, and that it's okay to be a learner. I don't know, you know, on this I was so tired this morning, and I apologize for that. I couldn't even remember uh, that the passage that I was reading from in Proverbs, when they refer to the she, and I thank you for one of the members of the community who said it's the Holy Spirit, that the Holy Spirit is referred to as a she in Proverbs, and I'm going to do a little more research on that because it was brought to my awareness. Um, but it felt so comforting when I read that, and I appreciated the comment that it's the Holy Spirit, and we sometimes forget that God gave us the Spirit by way of Jesus, and that's the story goes as the story goes. You know, Jesus left for so that we would be left sinless, so we'd be here without sin, and he was tempted too. You know, whether you believe he was real or you don't. Um, Metaphorically speaking, it's a very powerful message that um, he trusted God so much that he did not have to do things to protect himself. And you know, when Peter asked Jesus to take another route or to avoid the area in which he was going to be condemned, Jesus said to him, "Satan, get behind me. I must do this." And although Jesus wept in the Garden of Gethsemane and, you know, asking that this cup, if it is your will, that this cup be passed from me, you know, we forget that sometimes that the cups that are passed to us are for the greater good of those that um, we get to greet and meet along the way. So yeah, so that's your reading for today, guys. I appreciate that you may be watching this later. If you have any questions, put them in the comments section, and I will catch you the next time. Thank you. I can't see that. Okay.